Good afternoon and welcome to the Music and Technology Seminar at Carnegie Mellon. So before I introduce our guests for today, I also want to introduce someone who's very special to me personally and who is very special and known, I think, at least in name, by everyone in the College of Fine Arts and certainly in the School of Music. And this is Nick Vlahakis. Nick has been the most faithful presence in our seminar series for several years now. And he missed most of this year's seminars because of illness. And he's now on the road to recovery, and he's joining us once again. So please, everybody say hello and welcome to Nick. And thank you to Nick for all the work that he's done for us here in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
So the first challenge for me is to get unmuted. Did I do fine?
Yes.
You are.
This is a very challenging technical location I'm in right now. But if I disappear, let me know. But I wanted to do this for a few times, but we had other problems early on. But I'm looking forward to this discussion. I do have a nice drum set in my studio. I have a studio in my home too, which I had the good luck of having Ricardo offer his services and came down for, actually it wasn't even a whole week, was it, Ricardo? I think it was a weekend.
It was a long weekend.
Well, he had me a little frenzied because he had about 4 days and he wanted to solder every wire, every XLR. I said, if you do that, you're going to leave me with a bunch of wires hanging that I don't know what to do with. That didn't happen. Anyway, let me get just a quick history on my involvement. I did get my master's degree in engineering at Carnegie Mellon back in the 70s. I ended up in the end of my career as the chief operating officer of an aerospace defense company. Along the way, I guess I became kind of a rocket scientist / composite engineer guru. And at that time, it was critical to get, I helped design the GPS satellite launch vehicle, which was Delta II at the time. And it was critical that we take weight out of it because the satellite for GPS was heavier. So we replaced the incumbent steel rocket motors with graphite epoxy. And I ended up as a COO of aerospace, but also defense. So we got involved with a lot of other composite materials in the F-22 and other platforms. Let me just say, I don't want to tie up too much time because I want to hear about the snare drums. Like I said, I have a nice maple set of Yamahas in my studio. Every once in a while I get confused and the snare's still on and it ruins the recording. Other than that, I know a little bit about drums, but I don't want to take too much time here. I do want to just say a few things about this studio, though. I think we dedicated it around the 2014 era. And Ricardo said some nice words about me. My wife also, Kimmy, she actively involved here, but is tied up on another project today. But from 2014 till now, this has been a tremendous association for the Vlahakis studio in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon. And the seminars have been a great add to that. So I'm very happy to support it. Look forward to many more years. I hope I get a little bit healthier here by the end of this year and get back in action again. So if you have any questions for me, feel free. Ricardo has my contact information. And I'll turn it back to you, Ricardo, unless there's anything else you want me to talk about.
No, that sounds perfect. So thank you again.
Okay.
Okay, so now our guest today is Sean Andres, musician, entrepreneur, and inventor. Sean is the founder and CEO of Taproot Drums and the designer and manufacturer of the world's first snare drum made from sustainable sources, hemp. He has captured the attention of both musicians, especially percussionists, and organizations that extol the uses and benefits of hemp. Sean has been a guest on the seminar before, but it's time to find out the latest developments related to his remarkable invention. Please welcome Sean Andres to the Music and Technology Seminar.
Hello. How you guys doing today? One second, I'm going to get my slideshow up here, share my screen.
Volume okay?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. So today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience within the past couple of years releasing what I consider to be a new product in the music industry. Why new is in parentheses or with air quotes there, has to do with a little bit behind what we consider to be new in terms of product design and new materials. So a little background about myself. I don't have any formal woodworking or engineering experience. I'm primarily a musician. I always have been. Going through school at Mansfield University in North Central PA. I studied music business there. And then during my time there is when I kind of really fell in love with mallet making. Primarily, I started up my own custom mallet shop, which got me in kind of the product design world. And then through the pandemic, I was working on another startup with a friend called Eastern Hill Music LLC, which is a music publishing company. That company, while I co-founded, I do not really work with them anymore. I'm really proud to say that my co-founder is still operating the business now as he pursues his doctorate down in Greensboro, North Carolina. But yeah, being involved in a lot of startups, I always found the world of entrepreneurship to be kind of where my path lied as someone who always came from like the freelance background as a musician. And throughout the pandemic, I found this material called HempWood. And this material, HempWood, specifically struck my attention because I was trying to find a replacement for Honduran rosewood, because Honduran rosewood is primarily used for mallet, in the mallet instrument world with marimbas and things of that nature. HempWood, though, grows much faster and can be grown right here in the United States. So as a sustainable alternative, this new material, and when I say new, again, hemp used to be grown here in the United States for industrial purposes for a very long time before it became illegal. Just in 2019, the Farm Bill in 2019 unlocked our industrial capabilities with hemp. So hemp wood is when 2019 is when hemp wood really started being manufactured. Hemp wood can go from seed to lumber in just 4 to 6 months, compared to the decades that most trees take. Hemp is an excellent carbon sink. It absorbs more carbon from the atmosphere than just about any other industrially grown crop. And the Janka hardness is comparable to Honduran rosewood at 2200. Now, what else can hemp do? I build music instruments out of it, snare drums, as you heard before, and other. But we can also be using hemp for a lot of other purposes that I also like to advocate for, because it strengthens the very new supply chain that we have going in the United States. So textiles, which is like shirts, bags, shoes, hats, construction materials. So a lot of things that can be used to build houses can be made from hemp as well. As well as a lot of medicines and even biofuel. So the further along we get with that supply chain, the better we'll all be with anybody who makes products out of a material like that. Now, how I design, because I don't really have an engineering background, I've kind of found my own way to product design just through my own purposes in my small shop as a solo builder. So I typically start with sketches of the different jigs that I'll build. And then I'll take it into like a 3D virtual reality program that I have with my MetaQuest virtual reality headset. So it kind of allows me to work on the product designs or the models kind of in a 3D space in a way that I feel works for my workflow and how I am imagining as I design. My release strategy through all of this was primarily, to build a pre-order campaign at launch, because I was just getting into my shop here in Pittsburgh. I came to Pittsburgh here to attend CMU to build out this whole business plan and figure out the path forward. And for any of you who are thinking of or have your own products, a lot of this might be relevant to you, even though it might not be drums. A lot of this could be a relevant or parallel experience for anyone releasing like products in this space or any kind of idea like marketing strategies and such. For a product like this, because of how new hemp is for the industry and for products in general, like the general public, it's still very new. So I felt the best way is just to get these products in front of people. At that point, I had already had a bunch of prototypes that I had been testing for quite a while and felt really confident in. So I decided, hey, I need to get out to some trade shows and just let as many people as possible just play on these things. All the while being back in Pittsburgh, trying to set up a consistent space to work out of, because the years previous, when I was running my mallet shop, I really didn't have any consistent workshop. At some points, I was even working out of my car because I was still a college student. So having a consistent shop space to kind of grow into really made a difference upon my launch, and provided a really good base, a home base for me as I went out to these different trade shows to market the products. And at the launch, it was really just drums and practice pads. So two very basic items that would appeal to a much larger market than at least what I had before in making mallets. There are far more drum set players than there are marimba players or snare drum players, or xylophone or vibraphone is what I meant to say. Now, anytime you're releasing a new product and like going out to trade shows, it can be really intimidating because the number of other companies out there that are all trying to release their newest products and really stake their claim in the industry. And at these trade shows, as the hundreds of people are scrolling on by your booth, no one really wants to be sold. Some people do want to hear the pitch, but a majority of people, they don't make eye contact with you unless you really give them a reason to come over and hear what you have to say. So usually I just try to turn it into a conversation and make it personal, because of how I feel like universal the impact of like industrial hemp could be for a lot of Americans, especially in the areas that these trade shows take place. So to get past that, I've really tried to cement myself in like being transparent about, is what I have new? Is it not obvious? And like, why am I doing this? Because there's a lot of people who, no matter what you have, they'll just blow you off. But there's a lot of other people who, if you have something that's truly something that they haven't seen before, it'll stand out to them, and they will tell people about it. For example, every trade show that I've been to, the second day of the event has always been far busier at my booth, because people will go tell people that they meet at the festival or at the conference or that the trade show, like, hey, you got to go check out this thing. It's something that I haven't seen before. And really being able to distinguish that, because hemp, now I do want to clarify a statement that was made in the introduction. These drums are not the first hemp drums to exist. These are the first HempWood drums to exist. Over, I think, a decade or two ago, there was a manufacturer called Tempest Drums who was making his own composite material out of hemp stalks. But I believe after some time, him and there was one or two other people who I knew were trying to do the same exact thing a couple decades ago. But the DEA actually came and said that they weren't allowed to do that anymore. So that kind of is why, even though these materials have been around for well over 100 years and have been used by people, that's why when I say new in air quotes, it's not necessarily new. It's just I happen to be the first person who's really taking the risk what is now not a risk because after 2019 it is legal to really hit the market with this and try to provide this to consumers as an alternative to hardwood. Why other companies don't really want to, real quick before I move on, the overcoming so what, traditionalists, you know, there are some people, especially musicians, they have their gear, they have their brands and their brand loyalty, and there's nothing that any new company will be able to do to really convince them otherwise. So sometimes you can't win them all. So I've been trying not to cast my net too wide because there really is an audience out there for these products. So a lot of the opportunities post-launch that I had really came from the feedback that I was getting from these products. When I went to the NAMM show in Anaheim, California, that's the National Association of Music Merchants. I didn't have a booth there. I just brought one of my prototypes, and I honestly carried it on my shoulder for 4 days straight, trying to just like tell anybody I could about this product because I didn't have a booth. And through that, there came a lot of opportunities with like artist endorsements. There's actually an artist who has been using my product on his tour. He was touring across North America, both Canada and the East Coast. And being able to find connections like that has gone a long way. And trying to capitalize on those networking opportunities, even if you're not spending the thousands of dollars that it costs to get a booth to show your product there. Sometimes just trying to lean into those connections that you have long term and develop them over a couple of years can be better than introducing yourself to 1,000 people and then never talking to them ever again. So now I have been building just like a wait list based off of those people that I've been talking to for a couple of years and kind of working through my sales funnel to the point where now I can continue to collaborate with these other people, and with having the security of like orders coming through long term provides the security to allow me to collaborate with other businesses there was a point too where like and if you're making any kind of physical product and you're trying to scale that business up, if you are the solo builder, there's going to be a point where you're going to have to consider, do I hire, do I outsource any of this, or do I really keep my hands on the product? This has been a really back and forth decision for me because the demand that I see, you know, when I'm out at these trade shows, I do see that, you know, there's the potential to hire and try to scale this thing up a bit, especially given all the other instruments that I haven't even started making yet outside of just drums. But what it comes down to is I really just I don't really need to grow to satisfy the goals that I have for myself professionally. I don't really need to grow this business to a point where I have 10 employees and I'm scaling this business up. I'm personally really satisfied just having a garage out in the back of the back of my house here in Pittsburgh, and making it a seasonal kind of thing here. That's why I say stay true to your goals, because there are a lot of opportunities, especially with other businesses that potentially want to collaborate. You know, I've had conversations with retailers like Sweetwater and other larger distributors about being able to sell my products there. And after running, you know, just simply running the numbers and seeing how often I would have to be personally out in the shop making these instruments, it didn't really necessarily line up with my goals. I personally kind of really love having kind of like build seasons, you know, because I mean, for everyone here that is located in Pittsburgh, I know everybody's on a Zoom call here, but for those of you in Pittsburgh, there are a lot of months in the wintertime that I don't really want to be out in my garage working, you know, and I don't really have the space, you know, to get the temperature controlled as I would if I was trying to scale this business up into a larger shop. So staying true to my goals and, you know, trying to just remain this like solo builder that can kind of build the custom instruments that I want and keep the inventory that I want to go out there and market. That ties into with like knowing when to use people's feedback. Because I've gotten tons of great parallel ideas when people see our snare drums. They really they inspire them to think about a lot of other products, which I love. But also, I can't just start making a million different products right now. I would love, and I also encourage a lot of other businesses to start, using this material and other bio-based materials like this whenever possible. Understanding it's never going to be just a one-for-one replacement. It can't be. That's not how the physics of these materials work. There's just some things that hemp just can't recreate about the structure of wood. I do think it provides its own very unique sound that can be its own thing and its own option when people are selecting what kind of drums they use or what kind of instruments they're playing on. Part of this, a lot of this I'm just talking about like trying to adjust this business and the entrepreneurial lifestyle to how I see that vision for myself, and I think any entrepreneur should make that decision for themselves and not just get tied into trying to chase the business trends and like a growth mindset that eventually becomes toxic or beyond what your original goals really became to be. And a lot of that I feel like is perpetuated by social media habits. Like a lot of you that are musicians probably feel the pressure to be keeping some kind of social media presence in a way that can feel very toxic to the very nature of like why you got involved with the work in the first place. So I try to be very transparent about that. And honestly, a lot of my target audience resonates with that message very heavily. So that's something I've appreciated about a lot of the conversations I've had out there. But what does the future hold, I guess? Beyond just snare drums, and what I tell people all the time at these events is I do want these to go well beyond just snare drums. There's a lot of other products that I have been releasing and have in the process of being released. Just here, and this photo is the largest snare drum that I've actually ever built. It's a 14x8, so a much larger depth than your standard snare drum. To the right of that too is a couple of drum mutes that I have. This is a product that is actually a byproduct of the snare drums, like the extra scrap wood that I had from my drum making process. I sand right off and flip into a newly designed product, which is a drum mute. The fabric material that you see there is also a hemp fabric that I mentioned from before. There's a variety of canvases and felts that are actually a really incredible fit for a lot of the products in that space. Also wind chimes, little things like this have helped a lot at trade shows. The little base of this is made from hemp and the cord as well. Sorry if it's not obvious there, but little items like that has also helped at trade shows when like the main items are the snare drums, but not everybody is in the market to buy a snare drum at that moment. So having a lot of smaller items that people can purchase on site that they can start implementing or using, in their day-to-day just around them helps make those trips financially a lot worth it in between my build seasons. So yeah, I'm not really deciding on hiring anytime soon. There was a builder that I was talking to for a while about potentially collaborating with, and eventually we both kind of realized it's better if we just stay independent builders ourselves because we don't have shops next to each other. So trying to make that one collaborative effort isn't really worth it at that point. And it also kind of staying as two independent builders also supports, I think, both of our goals of just having more small businesses and having more creators sustainably creating, by themselves. Also some non-music products, being in this space of like green, like alternative materials, I've gotten involved with a couple like building associations that have introduced me to people that are simply just looking for more small makers creating small items with materials like this because of the demand they see in the market. So there's someone that approached me about making small like light pendants for them, just like hanging lights. They're like an interior decorator or designer that has a ton of contracts, and they're looking for more contractors to build items using materials like this. So the demand for items and just products that we use in our day-to-day life that are made out of materials like this, I think is just going to continue to climb. And Yeah. I want to save some time for questions. I know I just threw a lot, kind of scattershot about the past kind of 2 or 3 years of running this business, but I specifically wanted to stop here for some questions. There's some other things I can show as well.
Yeah, I have a question actually.
Yeah.
When it comes to actually sourcing hemp, I understand that there's right now a lot of pressure because of lobbying from lumber companies, from from the whole cannabis industry, from the actual federal government and the DEA. So how does it work in terms of sourcing your products, affordability, and sustainability in terms of the actual in terms of the actual hemp itself? Because I understand that right now it's probably a little bit contentious, or at least it used to be, and it could be very contentious if you're actually selling it, making money off of it, when in theory it is a cannabinoid, you know?
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been now working on this for so long. I often forget the stigma that it still has, despite constantly trying to like tear down that barrier. You know, right now for farmers, again, even though it is legal, because of the 2019 Farm Bill, farmers still need to submit themselves to FBI background checks, fingerprints. They also need the Department of Agriculture to come within a 2-week window of their harvesting to test the plants for a THC content, even though most of those plants, almost all of them, I think, can be visually identified without needing to do any kind of test like that to distinguish the different species of plants. So yeah, there is still a lot of stigma around that, but the challenges aren't really falling on me, if that makes sense. Like for me as a business owner trying to make these products right now, I can source this material. There's actually a farm in Kentucky that I will drive out to pick up the material myself just to cut down on shipping costs because of the amount of quantity that I'm buying at a time. So that's all a very like smooth operation. And as far as cost goes, it's the cost compares to most like domestic hardwoods, like a domestic oak, I think is their is the what they try to compare price range for that material. So compared to a lot of exotic hardwoods used, even already it is fairly cheap. But the thing is, it could be like even cheaper as the supply chain continues to grow. You know, right now the demand is also skyrocketing. So that's one of my strategies has been trying to, you know, develop close relationships with the people who are growing it and who are processing it, so that even if the demand continues to skyrocket, I can feel confident about having a steady supply myself. But that's also why I advocate for a lot of other products being made, because the more businesses that there are, the stronger the supply chain will be as a whole because of it. So I hope that maybe answers some of your question. Yeah.
And as a follow-up, does the fact that you're using hemp affect your like base of your consumer base? Because I understand that like when like I know that I've seen some hemp products, especially over the last couple of years, and I've seen people be like, oh, that's like hippie materials, or it's this kind of materials, and there's like the stigma comes in terms of a consumer base, and how does that affect who's buying your like products or the community around your products?
You know, I would be lying if I said I didn't recognize a pattern in like the type of accounts that are following my Instagram. Like when it's just random accounts that are following, there are a lot of people who are clearly more of what you would consider like that hippie vibe type of people. But oftentimes there is just such a cross between people who appreciate the multitude of uses of industrial hemp. For example, there was a company that approached me when I was at the Nashville drum show, or the Music City drum show in Nashville. They work with drummers primarily in the reggae space. Drummers like the Marley family, like Damien, Ziggy, and in that space, a lot of the clothes that they wear, you know, is traditionally like hemp. Like they appreciate the hemp clothing, and they were saying, oh, their market. They were saying like they would love this if they found it, and it's like that could be very clearly a direction that I go down, trying to market towards that audience. But I think this material is well beyond that. And I think it's the capabilities and the impact can go well beyond just like marketing to that audience. While I think it's like, yeah, of course, a lot of people in that audience, you know, based off of what they say, would really love a product like this. I'm trying to make an intentional decision to like kind of break the stigma, because industrial hemp, I mean, there is no THC content to at least less than 0.003 or whatever they legally have to test for. But it's just notably a very different plant that has a notably very different variety of uses than why the stigma is there in the first place. So by intentionally marketing to everybody and showing the like, why was this outlawed? And you're right when you mentioned earlier the lumber industry. Pennsylvania's biggest agricultural export, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, is hardwood. Back in the day, I'm sure that industry probably felt pretty comfortable when industrial hemp was outlawed. Same with the paper industry, you know, because you can make hemp paper, like hemp parchment paper, the same way, which I guess is also tied to the lumber industry. Same with the cotton industry. Like there are a lot of industries that are very happy to see this plant, you know, go through the challenges it has with the stigma and that the making it illegal, despite knowing that it's not the same thing. So sorry, I see a hand up here. Sorry, I missed that. Is that Dominic?
Yeah, yeah. I just had a couple of quick questions. So first I wanted to ask about how you navigated sort of like your artist endorsement situation. Like I thought that was, I mean, that's a really good idea probably for like a solo build, small, like non-scaling business. And I was wondering what that experience was like.
Yeah. So what it came down to, and what I decided to, is like any artist that like I endorse, or like to want to have like a deal with, or that I want them to endorse my products, I want it to be like a mutually beneficial thing. Because like before I was making products, you know, like I've always dreamed of like, you know, being signed to like that company that I love, and getting free gear and, you know, getting all that. And like the reality for a small business like myself is like I can't just be giving out free products all the time. So how I've approached it is trying to make it an opportunity to support smaller artists, because I do think a lot of smaller artists have a lot to offer my business from a marketing and sales perspective, given that I'm trying to just do like a wait list kind of strategy like seasonal builds. So like for example, the artist that I actually just had wrap up a tour, he came to me and said, like, hey, I've got that tour in the Northeast, and like, I would really love to play one of your drums. And I told him, like, I'm sorry, I can't just like give you a drum that you could keep forever, because the inventory is like super small right now. But I told him, I'm like, hey, you can take this for the whole tour. And then part of the tour, I think on the way back, they were stopping through Pittsburgh. So he just dropped the drum back off with me. He got to play on a brand new drum for his entire tour. I got to have my drum tested out and taken on tour, which for me meant a lot, you know, to know that it's, you know, going through all that travel. Like as musicians, like traveling is one of our biggest fears with our instruments, and making sure it makes it to our destination safely. So just knowing that the material can stand up to that, like, was one of the things that I was hoping to get out of the artist endorsement from my side. And yeah, like I said, trying to network with smaller artists. When I went out to the NAMM show is actually where I met the artist that I was just referring to. His name is Eric Rodriguez. Actually, he's based out of Denver. But I appreciated, you know, what his vision was as an artist. And I thought him being out in Denver for reasons that we mentioned earlier, you know, was an advantageous market to try to market my product in. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I had one more small question about like I'm sure like when you first started, like as a solo build, even if it was when it was with the mallets, like in terms of like coming by resources to fill out your garage to build and stuff. And I was wondering if you had like any experience like navigating, utilizing like other resources that aren't necessarily your own when you're
Mhm.
first starting.
Resources, are you saying like sources of funding?
It's sort of like I'm sure like when you first started, you didn't have like weren't able to have like a full wood shop in your garage.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so I know you. Yeah. So as I mentioned too about like having a different shop space every year, it was because I didn't have a huge inventory of machines, you know, and tools. I slowly basically just used the sale, like the first couple pairs of mounts that I made, like the only tool that I like, the only power tool I used was like one hand drill, and that was to drill the cores. And then once I attached the dowel rods, like everything else I did by hand, intentionally, because like I didn't have the money to buy the machines that could, you know, help me wrap it faster or drill it safer or more precisely. So I just had to slowly continue making more products, selling those products, trying to flip, you know, trying to save what I could and try to flip that money back into, oh, now I have a drill press instead of a hand drill, like sick. And I know it takes time too. Like this, I know I'm just, this example seems to be flying through, but like that's over like since 2017 ish. I've been slowly just, you know, oh, now this year I have a new saw, or this year I'm trying to save up for this thing. So by now I just have enough tools in my shop to accomplish what I want, and that's also part of like the staying true to your vision, is like knowing like I really need a new bandsaw, and I don't even have a table saw, which are like two pretty essential tools in any woodworker's shop. But for the products that I'm making, it's I just had to stay true to like, okay, what is it that I want to make, and how do I outfit my shop? Like on this slide right here, if you could still see that in that photo, like on the top left side of that photo, that table, that's a table saw could very easily go there. There's still more space in my shop that I could grow into as the time comes. And part of that has been very honestly just working jobs that have nothing to do with this, you know, with running my business as, you know, a way to get funding that way. At one point, I worked at Amazon. And one of the things about working at Amazon is when you order at Amazon, you can get a little bit of a discount. So trying to take advantage of things like that can go a long way. I'm not saying go work at Amazon, but yeah, just trying to take advantage of any little thing that you can if you're planning on like outfitting your shop, and being patient too, you know, knowing it's, unless you get a solid source of funding, someone to do that, you know, it might take some time, and that's okay if that's what like you see for yourself and like for your vision.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Sean,
totally.
Any final questions? Ricardo, do we have time for that? Or
Yeah, Ricardo, this is Nick. Can you hear me?
yeah.
I have a couple questions, follow up, kind of coming off some previous questions. You mentioned industrial hemp. Does that have more controlled properties than other hemps? Does that term mean something?
yeah, so even just over the past, you know, 5 years, there's been scientists at Penn State who have been trying to be more specific about the different species of hemp plants, and which species provide better, you know, characteristics for different purposes and outcomes. Like some, like a lot of the discussion right now is like around like how tall should it be? Like, is it growing? Like, because it grows very tall very quickly, but is that necessarily better or worse? So yeah, industrial hemp is hemp that is like grown, like that's I guess the term that's used for like hemp that's grown for a specific purpose, whether it's
But is it controlled by properties different than regular hemp?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Can I interrupt with that?
Hold on.
Yeah, we have dinner coming around. They're gonna place
Okay.
the tray right here, and I have.
Let me I apologize. I'm in a position where I have to take some calls. I'll follow up with Ricardo on some questions. The reason I brought this up, there's a group in Carnegie Mellon. I don't know, is Lance Ledoux still there, Ricardo?
No, unfortunately.
Okay, but he had a business part of Carnegie Mellon developing new products. And he helped me with developing. I'm going to have to get off, but
Yeah, I'd love to follow up with you about that.
yeah, because
Let's talk after maybe.
yeah, get my email. I don't answer them as quickly as I used to right now, but I'll get through Ricardo's quickly. Doing the oboe reeds, I found out the natural stuff has some properties, but the complexity of the constants that go with that are huge, and it gets very difficult. And you said you're not an engineer. I'm an engineer, but I would not always go to an engineer to solve a composite program. So you're not totally limited. The thing gets very complicated quickly. And so I suggest give me a call, and I don't know if I can help you, but I'm fascinated by the industry, and I'd like to, if I can, I'd be happy to throw a few ideas in your head.
Yeah, I would love to chat with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let me give you the, got 4 units for you.
Okay, Dawn, show us the drum.
Oh yeah, all right. So here, let me get out of this. Here. So so you can hear a sample. I worked with an engineer out of Southeast Pennsylvania, an Atrium studio in Rockleditz, on the Rockleditz campus, to record a snare drum sample pack for audio engineers to use to supplement their snare mixes. So this will be a good sample here, so you can hear what the drums sound like. This is going to start off without the snare drum sample, and then you'll hear it added as.
All right, and now here's with. So you can hear it sounds huge. It really fills out the space, big and beefy. It's perfect for this style. Now we're going to play a little bit of the auxiliary snare drum sounds we have in this aux file. So here is the section without the Taproot snare aux file. All right, and now here we got it with. So really provides a lot of support to the live drum sound we got going on here, which was hard to bring out the rim click in this mix because of just loud hi-hats. So this was definitely beneficial for this mix. So let's hear this in the mix without Taproot snare and then with. Here we go. And now here's with. So I hope you enjoyed what you're hearing there.
All right. So yeah, there's here, I'll go back to that slideshow real quick.
It's one of my favorite snares.
All right. Yeah, so that's the sound of the snare. Oh, there we go. So that snare sample is really great for audio engineers, especially who mix anything in like the rock or punk genres. That was especially Josh's specialty area that he engineers in. Yeah, so I hope you guys like that sound. And again, that's just a snare drum that we took into the studio. So I guess our process for recording that was just in the studio, just the snare drum. We had multiple mics, like across the entire room, basically, so we can get a really wide variety of live sounds. So it fits in really nicely with to supplement a drum set that was recorded somewhere else. And what our audio engineer did was he had me play a multitude of velocities, all the velocities, so it could be velocity sensitive as you're setting the different triggers, the trigger settings there, and then also a couple of auxiliary sounds. So we spent the whole day just getting basically whatever sound I could get out of that drum, so that audio engineers can supplement their sounds with that. Because we understand, not everybody can get a new snare drum, but sometimes, like if you're mixing and you need a little bit more punch from the drums, having a snare sample like that can go a long way. Yeah, and that the audio engineer that I work with, we both distribute that. He has a website as well. You could buy it on either of our websites, and we split that since we both worked on that. And yeah, do we have any more questions?
So Sean, are you working on other drums besides just the snare?
Yes. So here, let me go up to, I think I had a photo. Yeah, right here. So in this photo, you can see obviously there's multiple sizes there. The outermost ring is let's say it's going to be a bass drum. I am starting on full drum sets. I honestly I can't say how they're going to sound yet. I think that they're going to sound really great given how the snare drums sound. I think the tonal characteristics work really well. So I'm excited to see the full drum sets once they're glued up. I'm hoping this fall season, before the winter, I'm hoping to get at least a prototype of a full drum set that I could send out to different artists and studios to test out.
So is there anyone here at CMU who would be interested in trying out that drum kit?
Be interesting to try.
Yeah, and I mean anybody, we could definitely set up a day. I would be happy to come into the studio and just bring my inventory. I think the studio would be a really great space to let people test out a variety of instruments.
Okay, we'll arrange that for sure.
Great. All right. Any final other things here? How are we doing on time? I think
we're okay. Are there any questions coming up from anybody? Can we see like one of your finished drums? Because they look so beautiful, really.
Yeah, actually I have one right behind me. So this is the 13x8 drum. This one I've had sent out and tested by a studio out in Michigan. He had a drum. There's a drummer out there that I met online. Actually, I met him, and he was doing a drum forum for all the local drummers out there in their community. So I sent this out for them all to sample and get some demo sounds of. However, I never got any good recordings of that. So I think getting this one, maybe I could bring this one into Vlahakis here and see how that sounds. Also, there's the as I mentioned, the drum mutes. As you can see, the shape of it, it looks just like the shape of the stave. So it's like the cut off little end, the piece of wood that when set on top of the drum head, it actually works really nicely because it doesn't dampen the sound too much. Like a lot of drummers now, as far as tone control, we'll be putting like towels, or I usually put like my beanie or like my wallet or things like that on it. But depending on what it is, especially like towels and stuff, I find give like too dead of a sound. So just getting a small piece of a fabric weighted down by a piece of wood like this, a piece of hemp wood, I think works really nicely, and it actually it almost works as a natural gate. I know we've got a lot of tech people in here on this call, so it works almost like as a natural gate for the frequencies, and I think it cuts really well. Like, it cuts the high, like just the high frequencies, while keeping like the full tone really well. However, it would be kind of really fun to really test that out in the studio and record and see just how much it's cutting or which frequencies it's cutting. I think that would be a cool experiment to do. But again, like, since as I mentioned before, like I don't have an engineering background, and I'm just a musician. I say just a musician, you know, I don't mean to downplay that, but I say that as in like that has been my approach. I've let my musicianship kind of lead in the decision making of product design. And when I'm making the drum mutes, I don't know exactly which frequencies it dampens, but when I put it on there, I think it sounds really good, and I know how to kind of hone in that sound in a different way, whether or not I can describe the language in like that formal, the formal way. But,
Are there any questions? Is there anything in the chat window that we need to look at?
the chat now. I think oh, you said sounds great. Thank you. Yeah, that drum that you heard in that sample, that's also the drum that I had sent out to Denver for that tour. So it's nice to see the same drum over a couple of years now of use to really stand as a testament to like the durability of like the material. But on that, I guess if there's no more questions, I'd like to say feel free to reach out. Sean at taprootdrums.com is my email. I'd be more than willing to speak to anybody if you do have questions, or if you think of any cool products that could be made or whatever. I love having those conversations, so just feel free to reach out.
Okay, Sean, and we'll be in touch about when you can bring in the drum or even the whole drum kit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And to do some recording, you know, for advertising purposes that we can also do here.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much, Sean. And we'll stay in touch.
Thank you so much.